no plan doesn't count as a plan.
Get that stuff out of here. It's Southwest Bias.
Welcome into another edition of Southwest Bias, presented by our friends at the Husband Wife Law Team. If you've had a serious injury, call the Husband Wife Law Team first at 602-783-8841 or visit their link in our show notes and tell them PHNX sent you. And we are live from Studio K, brought to you by our friends at Circle K. Make sure to sign up to become a member of the Inner Circle today for free by downloading the Circle K app. I was driving home last night, and anytime I see rain in the forecast, I'm skeptical because it's Arizona, and we know how rain doesn't usually happen here. The forecast can be wrong. It can be fleeting. All those things. We know it. And I'm driving home, and I get to about Warner and the 10, about a mile from the Cardinals training facility there in Tempe. And before then, no rain. There was actually some sun. And the second I hit that off-ramp, poured, torrential downpour, and half a mile down the 10, stopped. And I looked at it as kind of a metaphor for yesterday as an Arizona Cardinals fan. The Cardinals started free agency off in a way that I don't think was exactly palatable to fans, to say the least. And I sat there and I looked at it and I wondered, what exactly, happened here? Why exactly did the Cardinals not find a way to actually get the job done? Now, a lot of people are like, well, Malik Willis wasn't going to be that good. And okay, fine. And I've been a believer that, Matt LaFleur was going to tell Mike everything he needed to know when it came to the Cardinals and Malik Willis. And if that's the case and Matt told him not to go that route, fine. That's okay. Now, according to reports, the Cardinals were in on the bidding and they just didn't want to go as high as Miami went. And maybe it was that third year that really isn't guaranteed that caused it. That's okay. Whatever the case may be, fine. They have to figure out why exactly they didn't want to make the decision. We'll find that out. And I'm okay that it's not Malik Willis if they did not buy in on Malik. I'm a little frustrated because that's probably the highest potential guy, the highest upside guy that you're going to see on the market this year, but that's not my big problem with it. My big problem is the fact that you've had multiple years to prepare for where this was headed. Nobody seemed to really think that Kyler Murray was going to be the answer. You had a serious injury. You had people questioning whether he was going to be able to pull it off. It seemed like this Monti and Jonathan Gannon were at least a little unsure when it came to Kyler Murray. And if you were potentially going to have this divorce, you should have been preparing over the last handful of years to have a contingency plan. Didn't draft a quarterback, did not look at anybody as the quarterback of the future. Never invested capital in a position that is the most important in the NFL. You did not put yourself in a potential position for success there. Monty did not have a backup plan. That's why when Kyler got hurt, you had Colt McCoy winding up being your starter until they found out, oh yeah, Colt McCoy can't throw a football anymore. And then it's Jonathan Dobbs, and it's this panic, and we got the spaceman. Like, the lack of a plan at the most important position in football is what concerns me so damn much about this. It's okay. A lot of the angst and anger is because you didn't sign Malik Willis, and fine. I think that's being projected for the pure fact that was the name that so many kind of had circled as the quarterback on the market, the quarterback with direct ties to the Cardinals. If they weren't interested, fine. But not having a plan, not having contingency plans over the last few years. And once you knew Clayton Tune wasn't that guy, which was probably about 5 minutes after you got in the facility, I'm sorry, getting Desmond Ridder isn't a plan, especially you get rid of him right away. Where was the long-term thinking at the most important position in football? That's where Monti Ossenfort screwed up. Monti Ossenfort not looking at the long-term picture when it came to this team and the quarterback position. And the fact that you wind up messing up that relationship last year. Instead of getting rid of Drew Petzing and trying to put Kyler with an offensive system that maybe made him better, or at least fit his talents better, to see if you could keep this salvageable, you decided that Drew Petzing was more important to this organization than keeping the potential relationship with Kyler Murray viable, so you didn't wind up in this position. You soft-benched him. You napalmed any chance you had of keeping him as the option this year while you tried to figure out the future. Now Kyler Murray is the best quarterback on the market. I know I said Malik Willis, but you knew that from the Cardinal standpoint, he wasn't an option. So Malik was that guy. But now you're looking at it, and Kyler's going to go somewhere for like $1 million, a couple $1 million, who knows? Not a lot of money. He's going to go start probably in Minnesota and then probably win games there. And you're sitting here and your first plan was Malik Willis. You decide it's too rich for our blood. We're not going to make that commitment. Okay, you don't want to commit 45 guaranteed. Fine. That's your choice. But then you have no real backup plan. Like Jimmy G supposedly was your backup plan. The report comes out and then it's, all of a sudden, oops, we hit a snag. I don't know what that snag is, but if Jimmy G was your second option, if Garoppolo was the guy you were going to go after, what's the snag? Was the snag you said, well, Jacoby Brissett's our starter? Well, then you're a moron. Because at the base level, you should just say you'll have a competition here. You want to come here, you want to compete to be a starting quarterback, we're going to give you that option. But there was some kind of hiccup. And the pivot after that was Gardner Minshew. Now, I'm not saying Jimmy G was the guy that was going to be anything special. That's not a real option. That's essentially giving you two, quadruple A kind of players that aren't ready to be starters in the league and shouldn't be starters in the league. But you couldn't even get that done. You couldn't even close the deal with a guy that's directly tied to Mike LaFleur, who was in his system last year. He could not close the deal on that. So you fail on Malik Willis, which everybody assumes was 1A. You fail on Jimmy Garoppolo, who's 1B. And then Gardner Minshew is C on your list? That was your contingency plan? And your plan is to start Jacoby Brissett? It feels like there's no plan. And that's where my problem is the lack of a plan. And don't tell me, oh, well, tanking's the plan. What? No fan in this town deserves to have to watch a 2-win football team after the crap we watched last year. And don't then tell me, well, Arch Manning will be here, though. No guarantee if you tank that you're going to get number one. We've seen that time and time again. Your strength of schedule is probably too good to put you in that conversation if you don't win. I mean, if you don't lose more games, like you're not gonna wind up there. So then you're trying to do that, and say you get number one. Do you really think the Manning family is going to let Arch come to Arizona? They moved Eli. They pressured the freaking Chargers to deal him to New York. I don't think that they're going to say, you know what, I really want Arch in Arizona because that's been going so well over there. Oh, but this morning, guess what? You want to say there's a plan? Well, guess what? We got Pro Football Talk, Mike Florio, that dropped this little nugget on us. I don't know how true it is. We can see the quote here. I don't know how good it is. We'll find out. But he says Brissett is generally expected to be gone. Minshew surely isn't expected to be the starter. So what will the Cardinals do? And he goes on to say Kirk Cousins. So you go from Malik Willis, you're in the negotiation, you're too cheap to pay him. You go to Jimmy G and you screw something up. You sign Gardner Minshew and then you leak to the media that Jacoby Brissett's your starter. we get this report. So were you leaking that to the media to try to drive the price up from the Jets potentially for a trade for Jacoby Brissett? And then your next plan after that is to bring in Kirk Cousins, a man that's almost my age, to be a bridge starter. So then you can potentially draft a quarterback this year and Ty Simpson that you'd either have to massively reach in a ridiculous way at 3 or trade draft assets to move up back into the first round. I still don't understand what the plan is. I still am convinced that there might not be one. And that is so concerning me. Let's look at Monti Ossenfort's record since he's come to Arizona. Our boys over at PHNX Cardinals dropped this lovely graphic. 4-13. All right, everybody says that was the tanking season. All right, so you got one tanking season. 8-9. A lot of false hope there. 3-14 last year. That's 15 wins, if I do my math right, and 36 losses. And you want me to sit here and stomach the idea of another tanking season? If that's the grand plan? No. In Arizona, we have suffered far too much to go through that again, especially if now the plan is to let Monty tank and then Monty make that pick. Let me remind you of the top 10 quarterbacks this franchise has drafted, the quarterbacks that they've drafted in the top 10 of the draft. Matt Leinart, Josh Rosen, Kyler Murray. Those 3 names are a reason why tanking doesn't necessarily guarantee anything, and the guy in the GM chair is the most important guy when he makes that decision about who's going to be that next quarterback in a draft. So the plan's to tank, and Monti Ossenfort is assuming he'll be here to make the pick, and we're supposed to, as Cardinals fans, trust that he's going to make the right pick when you look at what he's done with this roster. I understand people did not believe that Malik Willis was the guy. There's a large faction of Cardinals fans who thought that was the case. Okay, but those same fans can't sit here and tell me that Jacoby Brissett being your starter with Gardner Minshew behind him is a better solution necessarily. And the money. I don't care about the money. Michael Bidwill should spend out the nose to give us a potential winner. And don't tell me, the cap. Everybody learns how to circumvent the cap. Go look at the Dolphins. I think they had 2 nickels and $1 they found on the couch cushions yesterday morning, and they still found a way to outbid you for Malik Willis. So don't sit here and tell me the money is why you're not doing this. And nobody with a straight face can tell me that the Arizona Cardinals are in a better position letting Jacoby Brissett start and Gardner Minshew being the backup than they would have been with taking a flyer on Malik Willis or taking a flyer on Tyler Bagent or taking a flyer on Derek Carr and seeing if he was all right. Hell, maybe even Kirk Cousins, if we get down there to that point, might be all right. But then all this, I'm not convinced there's any sort of plan here. Not now, not for the future. And why, as Cardinals fans, should we feel confident in that? Why should we feel like that's something that we should trust? We've seen what this franchise has done since 1988. The same family has owned the team. And we can blame Monty for this, but Michael's got to have a hand in it as well. He had to sign off on whatever this plan or no plan is. I imagine that Monty really wasn't going, you know what? An extra $5 million, I'm not comfortable paying that, because 3 years, how is he thinking past 12 months? If his job is the hot seat, and if he thinks that he's safe, because Michael Bidwill told him, you know what, you're safe. Are you really Fredo Corleone? Do you not know what Michael's capable of? He just did it to your head coach. You survived. You were Bane telling Jonathan Gannon, brother, they're expecting someone in the wreckage. And Jonathan Gannon was the guy that had to be in the wreckage. I look at this and the Florio thing complicates it too, because I do not see in how you're sitting here and you're leaking that Brissett's the starter. Well, you're also apparently, everyone seems to know that he's gone, and everyone knows that Minshew isn't the guy. And then you're going to have to compete for Kirk Cousins if that's the guy you're going after, or one of these other quarterbacks that's on the free agency market. So what are you doing then? What are you doing? Or are you going to try to spend high assets in the draft to get Tyler Bagent, a high day 2 pick? And you've gone through this whole song and dance. I think sometimes they're playing 4G or 4D chess with a checkers mindset. Like, and at the chat saying Geno to the Jets. I don't know if that just broke, but if that's the case, did you just lose a place to try to trade Jacoby if that's what's supposedly going on? Or does Mike Florio yet again not know what he's talking about? That's the thing here. The water is so muddy, and you cannot sell me on the idea that the best plan for the Cardinals, their fans, for keeping season ticket holders, for trying to be a legitimate NFL franchise, is to lose as many games as possible next year, to force people to watch Jacoby Brissett. The reason that you soft benched Kyler Murray last year, one was because you felt Jacoby fit Petzing's offense better, but two was to understand what you really had with Jacoby. One win, and a bunch of garbage time stats. And I'm supposed to believe that he's the guy that should be the quarterback this year and the starting quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals. I do not understand how that's what's supposed to make sense here. I do not understand why you're trying to sell us on that. And it does appear that Geno Smith is going to the Jets. Based on an Adam Schefter tweet, he says, trade, the Raiders are sending Geno Smith for a 2026 7th-round pick to the Jets in exchange for a 2026 6th-round pick per ESPN. Smith returns to the team that he started his NFL career with. Now, there's rumors that the Jets wanted 2 veterans, so maybe you then subsequently can get a late-round pick for Jacoby as well. But now, if you were trying to play chicken with the Jets and get more out of them, you lost some of that leverage if that's really what you were trying to do. Or we really are living in a world where they think Jacoby Brissett can be the starter in Arizona. We started yesterday thinking that free agency frenzy was going to provide answers, and we now have more questions than ever before. And you know why I think that might be? Because I'm pretty sure Monti Ossenfort, when you look back at the last 3 years, doesn't really have a plan for the quarterback position, and that's a giant problem. But maybe that's just my Southwest bias. We welcome the dreads behind the desk. Kevo, how are you, my friend?
Tommy Lloyd is my basketball coach. Caleb Holt is on next year's team. Life is good.
Yeah, 5-star recruit committing to Tucson this morning. Was that a surprise? Was that not necessarily expected? Or was that kind of a foregone conclusion?
It was down to, I believe, from reports, Alabama and Arizona, and Caleb Holt wisened up and chose the Wildcats. But in reality, he won 2 gold medals with Koa Pete under Tommy Lloyd for the Team USA squad that they played for. He has a ton of relationships with Arizona, so it makes sense why he would commit there.
Yeah, it's good to see. Tommy Lloyd's got a tall task ahead of him in the tournament, but good to see that he's continuing to keep that pipeline fed there in Tucson. Do you have any interest in playing starting quarterback for the Cardinals? Do you got an arm? Can you sling it like Uncle Rico?
No, I can barely even throw the football. I can't do it. I can't even do it.
You can't sling the rock?
Nah.
You don't got that Willie Tuitama arm?
Only pigskin I mess with is Lechon Espo. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
Yeah.
All right. Were you surprised at how bad things seemed to turn yesterday? I know a lot of fans are trying to sell it, but I don't buy it. So,
was your question if I was surprised?
Yeah, were you surprised?
No. Was I disappointed? Yes. This Cardinals organization does this time and time again. They put you in a position where you have to try to sell your neighbor a bag of trash and tell them that it's good food. and you cannot do it. Your neighbor's not going to buy it. And so, yeah, I'm not surprised. I felt really gutted for our Cardinals crew, though. Bo, Johnny, Noah, they deserve to cover a winner.
I agree.
And Bo's in there talking about, like, you know that episode of SpongeBob, Espo, where Squidward just goes nuts? He becomes a crazy person?
I'm 42. You think I know SpongeBob?
You have a kid?
My kid's 9. She's not watching SpongeBob.
Your kid should be watching SpongeBob, Espo. If you want to raise a child of culture, your kid should be watching SpongeBob.
She's like talking about transubstantiation and teleportation and all these crazy terms, like in science, like looking at the first female astronauts. Like, she's not watching SpongeBob. She's much smarter than her dad.
Fair, you got me beat there. But I will say though that, like, this Cardinals team, it puts you through the ringer. And no, I was not surprised that they let us down yesterday.
Yeah, I am.
It wasn't. But
I'm not surprised, but we now have the Joe Dirt of quarterbacks. I mean, let's be honest. He looks like Joe Dirt. I'd rather have Eli Manning in that get up from Eli's place where he dressed as a quarterback and tried to surprise a college, whatever that was. Yeah. That's where I'm at. So.
Yeah, and hello in the chat is speaking my language. Espo, can we briefly discuss the fact that Magic City Night was canceled?
Sure, we'll get back to the Cardinals in a second. The NBA is a bunch of cowards. This was a brilliant promotion that got the Atlanta Hawks so much attention, and they punted on it because Luke Cornett had a existential crisis and wrote a column about it in a game he's not even playing in. Come on, Adam Silver. The NBA is supposed to have a little bit more cojones than that. By the way, Cole, Chad Powers, thank you for the pull. That was the name I was looking for. Either version of Chad I'd take at this point.
Yeah, and either version of Magic City Night I would take as well.
And I need one of those hoodies. I'm sorry. If the Hawks are just like going to have to get rid of those, let's get a Magic City hoodie for your boy.
Yeah, don't send it to Africa. Send it to PHNX
right here. Yeah, this isn't like those championship shirts that didn't count. That's not like the championship shirts from the 2021 NBA Finals. I mean, I'd take one of those if anybody ever found one.
There are children in Africa that think that the Buffalo Bills are the greatest franchise that ever walked the earth.
All right, let's get back. I want to welcome in the biased in the chat. I really appreciate each and every one of you being here. Iron Maiden, Jack, Cole, Alex, we've got Deborah, we've got the whole fam family up in here, and I'm glad to have each and every one of you here. We've got Hello, who says, we got Scrubs and King of the Hills revivals before Cardinals making an impact in the playoffs again. Yeah, that's where we're at. That's how long it's been. We've got Iron Maiden saying Monty isn't getting enough out of his coaches and development out of his players. Yes. So why do we think tanking is the answer? Tanking is not the answer for me. I do not see how it is, how that's the case here. It says, Bake Stuff says, Kyler was good for 8 wins, but let's rebuild an O-line for Jacoby Brissett, who had 1 win. I agree. We'll talk a little bit more after halftime about the guys that they did add. Michael says, the Cards think they're smarter than everyone else in the NFL. Idiots. And then Bake Stuff again says, Monty can't convince players to come here. It's the truth. Like, that's the thing here. And RFram29 says, this franchise will continue to be at the bottom of the league, keeping up with the same old crap. They will never be a consistent contender until Michael Bidwell actually invests into his own team. And then we've got a super chat from Michael Evans who says, we don't need no stinking plan, LMAFO. He didn't have the F in there. I added the F. But yeah, I mean, let's be honest. We don't need no stinking plan because who cares? We got Jacoby Brissett. I know some people are like, oh, don't do Jacoby. Like, Jacoby's a good guy. Jacoby's an excellent backup quarterback. Jacoby, to me, is not a starting quarterback in the NFL. We experienced that. Was that not the whole point of suffering through the back end of that? Is that not why we didn't do that? And Yuma says the plan is 2027. You know how many times I've been told since 1988 when this team came here that, the next year is the plan. I do not trust that. I do not trust luck to be part of a plan when it comes to drafting and getting the number 1 draft pick to get your choice of quarterback. It does not fit the bill, right? That's my problem here. You've sold me on that far too many times, and guess how many times I've been kicked in the ass by it? Every time you've sold me on that. Book's Journey brings up an interesting, Johnny did drop the bomb yesterday on PHNX Cardinals where he said Josh Sweat wanted to be traded and that Max Melton had some issues with a recent draft pick. These are the kind of things that bubble to the surface when you don't have a plan, when you don't have control of what's going on. Now you're putting the fate of MHJ in a critical year in the hands of Jacoby Brissett and Michael Wilson in his year leading up to free agency and that. Trey McBride, the best tight end there, now having to catch passes from Jacoby Brissett. We'll see how it is on the other half of the end of the third quarter because we went way long in this first part of the show. We will talk more about the Cardinals offseason right after this. Gotta tell you about my friends over at Window Depot. They are more than just a window store. Yeah, that's right. You can get so much more than just windows. You can get countertops, sinks, anything that you need to remodel a bathroom, a kitchen, whatever you're looking for. Plus, you can get flooring now. It's starting in the Tucson location. It's available down there. But then it'll be at the 6 other Arizona locations soon, so you can do that. You're trying to figure out what that bathroom will look like, what that kitchen remodel will look like. Well, they've actually have designers that you can go work with for free. $0. Doesn't
How much, Espo?
$0, which is about what the Cardinals spent on their quarterback situation. $0. All right. And, if you have an inaccurate quarterback in your house, one of your kids who breaks a window, they can replace those too. They've got the windows that you need. Plus, you can look online, you can order, you can pick up there. Whether you're working with a contractor, you're doing it yourself, everybody loves Window Depot for good reason because they are just that good. So you can visit windowdepot.com or you can stop by one of their 7 Valley and Arizona locations to see for yourself why they're more than just a window store. I highly recommend it. And the husband and wife law team, if you've been in a serious accident that led to serious injury or wrongful death, you need to find a lawyer that is going to help you in the most trying time that you're probably going to have. And if you do your research, which you should, it's going to lead you right to Mark and Alexis Breyer, the husband and wife law team. I got to tell you, I went through this situation. I've said it on the show before. I didn't do my research. I wound up with a guy that did not help. But the best part with the husband and wife law team is they want to make sure that you get the result that is best for you. Whatever they make, they want to make sure you wind up with more in your pocket. They also want to go to trial if it's necessary, and they're prepared to. Plus, you can cancel your fee agreement at any time for any reason. So if you've had a serious injury, call the husband and wife law team first at 602-783-8841 or visit their website in the link in our description and tell them PHNX sent you. Ooh, big halftime performance by the Cardinals cheerleaders. Thank you for coming in. We needed, a little bit of an uplifting performance with everything that's gone on. I'm glad they're still positive because I am not right now in terms of what's going on with the Cardinals. We'll do a quick look at some of the other moves that they made yesterday in the first day of free agent frenzy. And thank you to all the bias in the chat. By the way, hit that like button now. Over 100 of you in here. Need you to hit that like button. If you haven't already subscribed, do that. And hit the join button if you want to become a part of our supporters club. Right now, you're going to unlock great emojis, exclusive videos, and so much more. So do that. What really floored me about the Cardinals positioning yesterday and what they did beyond the quarterback situation is the first move they made was sign a running back. I like Tyler Algier. I like Tyler Algier. I think he's a good running back. He's been a backup to Bijan Robinson, only has 1,000-yard rushing season. He's a power back. So you have that. And supposedly Mike LaFleur had him as a guy that he really wanted as part of the offense. This is great. And I think unfairly he took some shrapnel from Cardinals fans because that was the first thing they announced and everybody expected it to be a quarterback. It came right after the Malik Willis news that he was going to the Dolphins, and everybody just dumped on it. I don't think it's a bad signing. I don't think it's what you should have come out of the gates with when you have so many holes, and you had just re-signed James Conner in a reworked deal the day before. the optics suck, but okay, fine. That's the move you make. And then you sign a 30-year-old offensive lineman who's had success in the league, and that's fine. Okay, you upgraded your offensive line. For who? Jacoby Brissett and Gardner Minshew, fine. And you say, oh, well, it's for the future. The guy's in the back half of his career. So you've signed an offensive lineman for the future, which may be a rookie next year, but the timeline doesn't add up. Again, I don't understand the plan. And then you sign a third-string wide receiver who is in the back half of his career. Have you really gotten better? I mean, you're plus 7,500 to win the NFC West. Like, the gap in odds is laughable. I think it's like plus 250 is, I think it's the 49ers, and then it's plus 7,500 for the Cardinals to win the division. I don't think you got better yesterday. And that's the problem. Losing. If losing is your plan, you've lost, and you will continue to lose. Because losing on purpose is for losers, as Matt Ishbia has said. That is just the reality of it. If your plan is losing, that's because you are a loser. And you will likely continue to lose. Connor, one of the bias in the chat, says, after the free agent signings, Espo, how would you grade this? Halftime show was awesome, as always. F? I mean, it's an F right now. They didn't get any better. Bourne, okay, good older receiver who's now third behind Michael Wilson and MHJ. All right. Congrats. He's excited to be here. I'm happy for him and his family to get the contract, and then he continues his career, but that doesn't change the fate of the Cardinals. That doesn't move the needle. Hello, no, I'm not born again as a Cardinals fan because of that signing. Good pun. And so, yeah, what's the plan? What are we going to see in day 2 and day 3 of the tampering window? Anything? Are we going to get movement? Is the Jacoby Brissett thing actually a rumor that is real? Does Mike Florio know something we all don't? We're being fed the line that Jacoby's the starter. If he's not, where are you going? The offensive line's slightly better. They'll probably continue to build up the trenches in the draft and maybe a little bit more in free agency. All right, fine. Nick Rallis has to prove that he can get the defense running because they didn't last year. And maybe that turns some of the tide because the defense is a little better. But your two options are being really bad, which everybody seems to think, or finding a way to show some promise and build for the future. Like complete middle of the pack, 5 wins is going to be an utter disaster if you manage that. And we'll find out what this plan is as we go along. I think there are some things that they can do, but as Andrew, one of the bias says, man, if you told me this were what would be a year ago, what a wild turn of events. People legit thought that there was a chance for the playoffs if they stayed healthy, that Jonathan Gannon had helped fix the culture, that things were moving in the right direction, and then the wheels completely fell off. Completely. Now you're in the land of QB purgatory again, a place that we've spent a lot of time as Cardinals fans. I don't know. I'm hoping tomorrow we come here and we all of a sudden see something a little bit better than what we have seen so far. That is another edition of Southwest Bias in the books. A big thank you to the dreads behind the desk, Kevo, who's putting in a lot of effort today. Live from a emergency pod for the Wildcats straight into Southwest Bias. Really appreciate his efforts today. Appreciate all the bias in the chat. Hit that like button on your way out. You can follow Kev at Kevo Post. You can follow the show at PHNX_sports. You can follow me at Espo. And remember, Mike Florio, you're our only hope. Ahoy, hoy.
We all silly like the mayor.